Hi, this is Daniel Gibson. I'm with Academic Technology Support at ETSU, and in this video I'm going to go over the basic gestures and controls for remote PC control using Doceri on your iPad. Here I'm already connected to a PC from my iPad using the Doceri app, and I'm holding the iPad in a landscape or wide mode. That's important because I'll reference it later. If you want to follow along, then you can pause this video and connect to a PC yourself using Doceri before we move forward. Okay, I'm just going to go over some of the basics, essentially the mouse and keyboard controls, as well as some other relevant navigational controls. And by the end of the video, I think you'll agree that it's all pretty straightforward, and that's a good thing. Okay, I'll go over the mouse controls first. The most basic control, and the one that you'll likely use the most often, is just a one-finger tap on the screen. This will emulate a left click from a traditional mouse. Notice that when you tap on the screen, a graphic pops up, a crosshair and a number. That crosshair indicates where Doceri perceived that you tapped, and the number represents how many times you tapped on the screen. If you tap once, then a 1 appears, and if you tap twice, then a 2 appears. By tapping twice, you can emulate a double click from the mouse, which is necessary in some cases to open files and folders. What about right-clicking, or, for Mac users, option-clicking? Simple. To right or option-click, just tap and hold with one finger. I'll do so here, and you'll notice that a context menu pops up as a result on my desktop. Very simple to do. And last but not least, we have click and drag. Again, this is quite simple to do. Just tap on an object with one finger and then drag that finger across the screen. I will move one object here on my desktop from one location to another by tapping and dragging across the screen. So all that pretty much covers our mouse controls. But what about other forms of input? You'll notice in the top right of the Doceri interface, we've got a small keyboard icon. If you tap on this icon, then a full-size desktop keyboard will display, complete with OS and function keys. You'll see that here on my screen, the keyboard is actually too big to fit all at once. So if I want to, for instance, get to the full number pad, then I have to tap and drag the keyboard to the left in order to see and access it. If you are in a situation where you need to enter a lot of keyboard input, then I would probably recommend just using the PC station instead. But if you need to input just a few keystrokes, then this on-screen keyboard should suit you just fine. Once you are done with the keyboard, you can go back up and tap on the keyboard icon one more time to hide the keyboard. You may have noticed in the top left and right of the screen two arrow buttons, one pointing up and the other pointing down. These buttons are mapped to the page up and page down keys on the keyboard. So if, for example, you're running a PowerPoint presentation, you can use these arrows to move back and forth between slides in your presentation. Also, if you are using a web browser and need to scroll up or down on a page, then you can use these arrow buttons rather than having to use the mouse to click and drag on a scroll bar. You may find other uses for these arrows, and indeed there are some extra features for them in annotations mode, but that should at least get you started. That pretty much covers mouse and keyboard input. But there's one more thing I want to cover, zoom controls. You will eventually find yourself in a situation where you are trying to interface with something that is too small on the iPad screen, and this may make it difficult to use the normal mouse controls on the iPad. Luckily, you can zoom in and out of the PC screen on the iPad in order to get a better view and interface with the PC more effectively. To zoom in or out, use two fingers to touch the iPad screen, and then pinch them together or spread them apart. You can also move the two fingers simultaneously in any direction to pan around the screen while you are zoomed in. Resetting the screen back to 100% after zooming in can be somewhat tedious using the two-finger gestures. Thankfully, there's another, in my opinion, better way. Here I'm holding the iPad in landscape mode, but if I flip the iPad to portrait mode and then back to landscape mode, then the screen will be perfectly resized to fit my screen. It may seem a little odd to do this at first, but I find that it's easier and more consistent than trying to use the two fingers to position the screen back in place. You can, of course, choose whichever method you prefer. Before we finish up here though, let's go back and look at that portrait mode. In this mode, you'll notice that instead of one, we have two screens. The bottom screen is our PC control screen, where we can still carry out mouse and keyboard commands. And the top screen is what is being output to the audience. However, if you use one finger to tap and hold in the top window, then a pointer graphic will pop up. When you do this, suddenly the bottom screen is what the audience is seeing, and the top screen is showing extra interface graphics relating to the pointer. You should notice that there is a large magnifying glass, allowing you to see exactly where you are pointing. Also notice that there are two graphics to the left and right of the magnifying glass, respectively. If you tap on the left graphic while holding down on the pointer, then you will be able to change the pointer's style. And there are a good number of options. If you tap on the right graphic while holding down on the pointer, then you will be able to adjust the rotation of the pointer object. Using this pointer allows you to use Doceri rather than relying on a separate laser pointer or other such tool in order to emphasize things on the screen for your audience. We've now covered all of the basic input commands for PC remote control. Hopefully this will get you started with controlling a PC using Doceri in your classroom. Thanks for watching, and good luck.